It's time to present Scott DuPont to bring you another episode of Finance Your Movie with tips and strategies to help you get your money to tell your story. It's time!
Okay, another exciting episode of Finance Your Movie. This week I am joined by Guilford Adams, who wrote, directed, and produced the documentary feature film American Clown. Welcome, Gil.
Thank you so much. It's so good to be here. Just super excited.
So, what's interesting is you may or may not know Gil from the morning show. Congratulations on all those episodes hanging out on the couch with Reese Witherspoon.
Yeah.
Not many people can say that, but you're a clown, an actor, a musician, writer, director, producer now, like a man of many hats.
Yeah. A jack of all trades, master of none. Yeah.
So this is really your first project, but you've really been in the acting game and I guess at the clown game for forever.
Yeah, I mean, this is I've been an actor since I moved out here in 2000, and I was a physical actor in college, and so I got into clowning a lot. That was kind of the way, that was my entryway into acting. I was an athlete in college, and then I was a diver, a springboard diver, and so I started taking some acting classes. And so where I lacked in understanding the classics and having some sort of like high school education, I could tumble. So that was a lot of so I really latched onto Shakespeare and that sort of stuff, and their servants and all that, all the stuff that like led itself to be physical. And then when I moved out to LA, they were said, oh, you need to have a job that's it's flexible and stuff. And I worked as a PA at Pytown Productions for a while, and I didn't know where I wanted to go, and I found that you don't want to be stuck in the PA position for too long. So I had also was doing kids parties, and that just I was working for other people, and then I was like, well, wait a second. I saw the money changing hands, and I said, I should just do this on my own and not have to have a middleman booking me. So that's when I started my company. It was previously called A Clowns for Hire. This is previous to the internet. And then that's why the A was there back in the Yellow Pages day. And then I tried to get on a database that had my name, but it wasn't my company, Clowns for Hire. And the guy was like, I can't have you on the database with that name. It was just the internet, like, brand new days, and he's like, why don't you be like you're in Los Angeles, right? And I was like, yeah. He's like, why don't you be a Los Angeles clown? The best advice anyone has ever given me. And then so I jumped off, and I was able to find that domain name. This is before everything was taken.
Wow.
So I got Los Angeles Clown, and that's been my company ever since.
Very cool. So you've been acting since the 90s. A lot of credits. Congratulations on all the work. I saw the trailer, by the way, for American Clown. It looks amazing. I haven't seen the movie yet. Thank
Yeah.
you for Andrew McKinnon for the referral, for hooking us up.
Yeah, for sure.
But where did this idea come from, putting together this film?
I was a part of the Field Ronald McDonald program. A lot of people don't know that there was a field program from the 70s that was still kind of basically represented here in America. In every little state, Southern California had about four of us. We called each other Toms, which is an acronym for top of the market. And we were all employed. We were employed by the Southern California owners and operators. And so everybody had their own little sort of thing. So you weren't paid by McDonald's, but you're paid by the owners operators of your state or whatever jurisdiction they had. And I was working in this company kind of, in addition to acting, just part-time work. And then around 2017, I just had a family. I was just starting a family. And I was thinking, oh, I should really kind of maybe go full time. And, the acting thing ebbs and flows, as does a lot of stuff. And then at that time, people were getting cut right and left, not from Southern California, but from other areas of the country, Midwest mostly. And I thought, whoa, that's poor guys. That stinks to be them. And then sure enough, towards the end of the year, we basically were told we were no longer working. And it was a shock. And so at that time, I had a producer talking to me saying we should film just film your life in that sort of stuff. And for years, I kind of put them off. But then when that was happening, I was like, well, this is happening in real time. We should film it, even if we don't use this stuff. We should film it for something, and maybe because I just didn't understand. Just to give you a bigger backdrop, everything was happening at that time. It was coming out. Ronald McDonald was getting rid of their mascot. Barnum and Bailey Circus, they were closing their circus. Big Apple Circus had just closed. I mean, kind of
It's like
because
the end of the clowns,
it was
the
just gone. It
traditional
was
clowns.
gone. Yeah, it was really like, what's going on here? It was also the beginning of a presidency in 2016. So there was just a lot of stuff happening. And I thought there's something bigger than I know what's going on. So I really wanted to like at least document it. And that to me, so, kind of I was the boots on the ground. And for a lot of people that had a full-time employment, working as a Tom, they probably didn't want to bite the hand that fed them. But for me, it was just like supplemental cash. And it was like, well, yeah, I mean, I felt like I had a unique sort of perspective because I wasn't worried about like getting fired because I couldn't get fired too much more than I had already been, and then my job was an actor. And so I kind of always felt like I had I was a little 1 foot out, 1 foot in, in a lot of ways. And it felt like a story that needed to be told. And then it took almost a decade, and now we're finished.
Wow. So you hooked up with this producer.
Yeah.
He had done some producing, I'm assuming.
Yes. Yeah, Jason Salee, and we were friends. We had the same circle of groups of friends. He'd worked on docs before that. And then and he works as a location guy. So, we're all in the industry. We're all doing kind of other side hustles. He worked for a couple years. He got put out in Hawaii to do Magnum PI and a couple of those shows they were kind of relaunching. And then I hooked up with another producer who really at that time gave us just additional lifeblood when we kind of needed it because we were flagging. We had a bunch of interviews. It was right before the pandemic, and I saw him at another commercial audition. He's a commercial actor too, this other producer, but he had worked doing a Guar documentary, The Orange Years for Nickelodeon, and like he had a track record, and he was enthused and excited, and it was just the jolt we needed when we were kind of getting bogged down with our lives and stuff. And he came in and he just did that was Bill Parks, and he just made just really really helped us push forward, at that point.
Now, what was the budget range for this?
If I mean, I could tell you the budget range that I tell people, and I can tell you the real budget range. I said that we probably did this for, I think what we've said about 200 grand. The reality is it was all self-financed and I did it for about 30. Now, if anybody
Wow.
ever comes to me that, I'll completely deny that. But I did it for about 30 or less.
Only filmmakers listen to this show, so
Okay,
you're in
great,
a safe
perfect.
space.
So, it took 10 years. It's a documentary. So you're calling in all the stars that we had: John C. Riley, David Arquette, Steve-O. They all did it because it's a documentary. They did it for free. I mean, I think I brought them a gift, or I always tried to kind of grease the wheel.
And you
Try
knew these guys, right? They're friends?
Yeah, John, I know. I did his kids when they were little kids. I did his kids' parties. Steve-O, I know. If I didn't know him directly, David Arquette, I worked on a film with him called Saving Flora in 2016. And Steve-O, he didn't know me, but he was in the same class of Ringling that a bunch of my buddies were. The class that I auditioned for in 2000, sorry, no, 1997. And it ended up being the last class of Ringling that they ever did. So it was I auditioned that year, didn't get in, went to do summer stock instead, and then and then here we are. So yeah, I knew most of them, and then the producer helped us get David Howard Thornton, who plays Art in The Terrifier, and Bill Irwin. I a friend of a friend, really. I mean, Bill Irwin. Most clowns worth their salt know who Bill Irwin is, and he's kind of, for a lot of clowns slash actors, he's like the North Star for a lot of us in my generation because he's done it all. He's a Tony Award winner of the MacArthur Grant. I mean, the guy is just the real deal. And that really, after I got him, I felt like, okay, we're good. We're good. He was the kind of my main get, really.
So kudos for you for putting up the budget. did you think about bringing in some other people, like offering investment opportunities, or how did that all come together? Or you just
You
said, I'm
know,
going all in. I got a little extra money. I'll hustle.
well, a big part of it was because it took so long, right? I mean, each time it would be $500 here, $600 there. We did agree to pay the first the editor. That was really when the coffers opened. Other than using, we did it for as long as we could using Hans, who has several camera packages and and some mic packages. We just kind of like didn't do a lot of rentals, kind of did it any way that we really could, until we had to get people from out of state. And then we can't travel with Hans, or he's busy, so we'll get a camera crew there. Bill Parks is a wonderful producer, and he's able to really work at people and able to kind of get them down to a reasonable rate. And he's so in that way he's just fantastic. And we did this really, like probably a lot of these film projects are done just kind of like by the good graces of people's generosity. I think there was a time when we talked about doing something like with the GoFundMe, or like a lot of things. I personally am not a huge fan of that, just because of my own, I guess. I don't know, but not to say that it would not have been good for us. And after the fact I thought like, oh, maybe I should have done that, just because you get more people interested in it. But I guess I just didn't. I just wanted to be under the radar as much as possible, and I had, because it wasn't just like these gigantic sums of money, I was able to kind of do it. And then towards the end, when we really got to a point when I felt like I had about a $25,000 over 8 years, I felt like, okay, the movie's pretty much done, but now we got color correction and that sort of stuff. We had just gotten a distribution deal with Vision, and they gave us a minimum guarantee. And so we had that extra funds when I started to feel
Oh,
just a little
nice.
like, and so that helped us get over that last hump, when it feels like, oh, another 10 grand. Like this is the toughest amount of 10, but this is the toughest one to get to. And so thankfully, for that, we were able to kind of get it going. And I suppose we could have avoided the color correction, done it all in-house, and the same thing with the
No,
sound.
no, you probably
Yeah,
wouldn't have gotten picked up by Vision Film. So congratulations on that
yeah.
distribution.
Yeah, I appreciate that. There's ways to, when you can cut corners, but I feel like at the end of the day, that's going to be out there for the rest of your life on a streaming service. And the little things that bug you now are just going to really bug you later on. So I thought, it helped with Vision, really giving us that minimum guarantee to like just kind of take it
Yeah.
out,
Well,
just
you
spend the
got it
money.
done, so congratulations. And
Thank you.
if you get the bug for a new movie idea, maybe you can crowdfund or get
Yeah.
investors that time.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this in parting, what advice would you give to people that have a great movie idea, either a low budget narrative or a documentary, but they're on the sidelines. They're not actually making the movie like you just did.
Yeah. For me, I would just start filming. Start filming. I work as a writer too, writing my own stuff. And I'm always just reminded that like you just got to get the ideas out. It's almost like you have to download it so other things kind of come into your head. And it's the biggest obstacle when you're waiting for all the pieces to be just perfectly aligned. I think you just start. I was, when he first started doing all the early stuff, it was all McDonald's. It was very McDonald's heavy. And I thought, like, I don't know if we're even gonna use a lot of this, or legally how we can use this. And at the end of it, and at the end of this 10-year process, we didn't use much of the McDonald's stuff at all. And so if I had let that get in my way and been like, I just don't know legally how we're going to get around this, and that had become my obstacle, I might not have ever gotten to the end, because I would have like psyched myself out with like, well, how am I going to compete with McDonald's for a thing? And we just didn't end up using that much of it, because there was so much more better stuff. You know, um, and the other thing I'll say, I went to college with Mark Duplass, and we worked on the morning show together, and we're friendly, and he
Yeah,
and his
was that in
brother,
Texas?
yeah, yeah, UT, And they've just gone the world. And what Mark has said, and I love, I'm a big fan of his social stuff, and and he's like, just film. Nothing stops you from filming on the weekends, and he's absolutely right. Nothing does stop you from that, but that's just part of the journey, and going through this journey as a filmmaker for the first time and not doing radio, television, film. I did the acting concentration, so like I learned a lot about performing, but I didn't really. This other thing was like, well, okay, I'm learning a lot about it, and one of the things that you don't. I'm used to rejection as an actor. I mean, getting rejected from film festivals was a whole nother ball game. And I was not quite prepared for that, and because it wasn't just me, it was the movie and all the people and all this. And I'm built to accept this rejection. And it still felt like a gut punch to me. Before we got into Dances with Films, I had 25 straight no's, 25, like just in a row,
Wow.
in a row. And then everyone's like, oh, and that was just soldier up for that part of the journey. I felt like, God, here we are. People are going to see it. This is going to be done. And I think it took me a lot. It took a couple yeses, right, to kind of loosen it up a little bit. Like, okay, so I'm not just like crazy. There are some people that like it. I don't even know if people are watching it, to be honest with you, or if like it's getting screened by.
They will be. They will be. There's a lot of first of all, there's a lot of clowns out there, more than you realize.
Yeah,
I have a couple friends that are clowns, and it's just kind of an interesting slice of Americana life and
absolutely.
history.
And there's also, part of me getting it out sort of on the forefront is quickly, well, not quickly, because it took almost 10 years, but wanting to finish it is I'm a big believer in the world is trying to tell this story. And so if you're not going to kind of bring this to fruition, somebody else will, and I've gone too far not to kind of just push this over the finish line. And that's really kind of what I set out kind of wanting to do. Because I think there's right now a big groundswell of goodwill for clowns. And I wanted to be a part of that conversation.
Well, Gil Adams, you did it. Kudos to you for making American Clown. And where can people go see the movie if they want to catch it now?
Oh, absolutely. Well, they can go on to Amazon Prime. You can buy it through Apple TV. Right now, it's for rent or for purchase. It'll be streaming on Amazon at the beginning of the year. As I understand it, we have to do a quarter of like video on demand before we can actually kind of stream. So you can get it on Fandango. I think we've got YouTube. We also have Amazon. And then and I believe YouTube. I said YouTube, and then lastly we've got Apple TV.
Awesome. And if people want to follow you personally, do you have a good website or place
Yeah,
people can follow you?
I'm on Instagram at Los Angeles Clown. You can also do my company, my Los Angeles Clown company, and then American Clown on Instagram is also there, as well as americanclown.com, where you can catch the trailer and all that sort of goodness.
Awesome. Gil Adams, I wish you all the best. And there we have it, the clown, the American Clown.
I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me, Scott. I really appreciate it.
It's time!
There's never been a better time to make your own film. And if you have a dream project you're excited about and 100% committed to getting it funded, go to financeyourmovie.com, click on the green telephone, you'll see our calendar and find an open spot. We'll do a one-on-one call, which will be the best hour you've ever spent getting clarity and strategy towards financing your movie.